I'm Rob Eckno, and I'm a recovered cocaine addict and alcoholic. I'd like to take a moment and share my story with you because God asked me to write this book a few years back. And I was like, Lord, why do you want me to write a story about my alcoholism and cocaine addiction? He says, because, Rob, America is a mess right now. Fentanyl poisoning. We've got all kinds of families that are broken up for one reason or another. The holiday season is coming, one of the most depressing times of the year for an alcoholic or addict who's feeling down and out, doesn't feel worthy. We have horrific weather situations. We've got wars raging around the world. If there was ever a time where people were going to start drinking or start using to hide their feelings or up their ante on their already flourishing addiction, now would be the time. And I just want to let you know that there's hope. And God asked me to write my story down. It's just simply how I went from having a wonderful family life back in southern New England to choosing to start using alcohol and drugs. And one of the biggest reasons that I started doing so, because for some reason I didn't realize that I was the special child of God that He had created, just as you are, because He creates us all equal. But for some reason, I always felt less than. And one of the things that was the biggest defining moment of my life, when I was about 25, my hair started fading away. So I was working on radio at the time, and I was hoping to get into television, and I was thinking, wow, how could I ever get a job on radio and TV being bald? And so I started wearing a hairpiece, and it was it painful. I used to sit in a stylist chair, and they would literally braid my hair around my head for about an hour. It just felt like somebody was just pulling my hair for an hour. And then they would put this fake hair on my head, and then they would pull it again and tie it all together. And every 5 or 6 weeks, because my hair would grow out, I'd have to go, and they'd have to do it again and again. And then I would spend 45 minutes every day sitting in the mirror trying to make this fake thing look real, because I felt I had to look the way you wanted me to look. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew that bald was not acceptable. And I went on for 18 years sitting in the mirror, putting this thing on 45 minutes. I just think of how many countless hours I wasted of my life because I felt that I wasn't good enough. It took me that long to realize that God had made me just perfect the way He needed me to. And then one day I had lunch with a wonderful gal out in North Hollywood, California. And after I helped her with one of her issues that she had going on in her home life, I asked her back to my apartment, and I went in the bathroom and I cut this thing off my head, and I put my hands around the side of my head, and she looked at me, she said, "Oh my God, why don't you just shave it off?" And I did. And I was working on national TV at the time, and on Monday night I went into the studio technically with a full head of hair. Tuesday I went in here looking like this. And you know what? My partner before me, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, in about 3 minutes, you're going to see something that you've never seen before in your life." And I walked in front of that camera, and I just stood there. And it was at that moment I finally came to realize that I was just good enough the way God had created me. No fake hair, no fancy cars, no fancy homes, nothing, just me. And you know what? The phone lines went crazy. And I had my biggest sales night in 15 years, the night that I just became me. My prayer for you is that you can read this story in this book. You can get it on Amazon, any online realtors. Many of them have this available as well. And that story is in here called Headline News. That story and many more. And they're just simply my stories of how I went from middle-class kid to homeless cocaine addict to having all kinds of wonderful, amazing experiences once I allowed God to start running the show and I get out of my own way. And if you or a loved one or colleague are going through challenging times with an addiction right now, I pray you'll get yourself a copy of this book and start reading it, because God wanted me to write it. So that means He had somebody in mind who needed to read it, perhaps you. And I pray that you'll be able to get out of your addiction and start living the life that you were meant to live.